this is mostly geared towards restaurant kitchens, but hopefully this will apply to everyone here. I used to be the buyer at the W Hotel, where there's an emphasis on local. Prior to that, I was at Bar Mansion, which has an emphasis on organic and local. So that's kind of what developed my interest in creating these direct relationships with area farmers and ranchers. So why buy local? As Jeremy mentioned earlier, your dollar will go further when it's spent with a local business. So keeping your spending within the community will definitely strengthen your local economy. And also your customers are asking for it. Your customers will appreciate knowing where their food is coming from, and not just local, but how it was grown. The one advantage of buying locally is that farms will harvest to order. So it really just doesn't get any fresher than that. And as we all know, fresh just simply tastes better. So if you're concerned about quality of your ingredients, local's one great way to go. And also you're gonna have longer shelf life and less food waste. So it definitely makes economic sense. Another reason is you're more likely able to break a case. I've looked at some price lists from distributors. Herbs, for example, you pay one price for a full pound. If you only need half a pound, you're paying you're paying more like 75%. So they really don't encourage you to break cases. But with local farmers, it's really easy to call. Just, I need 5 pounds of this, 3 pounds of that. You can really, it works well for smaller businesses that don't have huge purchasing power. And it's just beautiful. Look at this, to me, is near perfect produce. It doesn't get any prettier than that, fresher, crisp, nutrient dense too, because it was harvested to order and not harvested early to sit on a truck and be, sent cross country. Just again, beautiful, vibrant colors, no blemishes. And also, once you establish a relationship with a farmer, a lot of them will grow specifically for you. So if there's something you're interested in putting on your menu, and otherwise it's a special order with a distributor and a long lead time, it's great because they'll grow it for you, and you've got some amazing varieties. So this is from Phoenix Farm. It's this funky little spiky cucumber that I can't imagine ever being able to get through a distributor, but yet we could buy it right there at the downtown farmers market. Same thing, cornichon. I think this is from maybe Tecolote, or this looks like Comanche oaks. Great for a salumi board, but try ordering that from a distributor. Same thing, chamomile. I'm starting to see that right now. So just some really fun ingredients you can work with. I think that the local food movement, this is just my personal opinion, kind of evolved from sort of a reaction to organic becoming big and showing, these big corporations going organic, and people felt like maybe they lost touch with, they wanted that connection. So, but the beauty of local is you can go physically show up and see how that food was grown. I was on a farm once and I said, well, how do I know what kind of organic, or what kind of practices this farm used? And the farmer said, take a big whiff. You smell that? That's orange oil. And so his point was, you're here, ask me. I'm an open book. I'm happy to tell you about how we rotate crops, how we compost, what kinds of inputs we use. Okay, so finding the farms. It's pretty straightforward. Just throw some business cards in your back pocket and show up at the farmers markets. I would recommend even going to markets that you may not end up shopping at, because you may meet farmers that are actually making deliveries throughout the week. So for some chefs, it's hard to get to a Saturday morning market because they're serving brunch. But it's a good place to start, and get their info too. And a lot of farmers are sending out availability lists. Some of them post their availability on their website or Facebook, so check those regularly. Localharvest.org is another great resource for both farms and ranches. It's not a source that I see farms updating frequently. As you can see, the listing was last updated in 2012, but all the info is still the same. Springdale's one of my favorite farms. They're just down the road on the east side. But what's great is you get the contact name, you get their website, phone number, everything you need. and even list whether or not they sell wholesale, which I think is why you're all here. TOFCA is another resource. Texas Organic Farmers and Gardeners Association, they hold an annual conference. It's really meant more for growers. It's Jermaine is here. She's a farmer. You've been, right? Have you been? But it's a good resource. Again, the members are farmers, so that's who you're looking for. So, Slow Food USA, I'm a big fan because we've got a chapter here in Austin, and I volunteer for the local chapter. But a lot of what our chapter does is organize farm tours. So that's an opportunity to go in a group to tour a farm. Edible Communities publications are great. There is an Edible Austin, which will feature profiles of farmers, ranchers, dairies, all the people you're looking for. And if you're not in Austin, if you end up in Dallas or another part of the country, there are magazines for a lot of the major communities in the country. For pastured animal products, eggs, meat, Eat Wild, and American Grass Fed are some other resources. I'm also a big fan of Chefs Collaborative. It's another nonprofit that really works to connect chefs and farmers and ranchers and fishermen, and they've got some great publications on their website. Managing food costs, whole hog sustainability. All right, getting started. So just start talking to farmers. Show up, ask to see their farm, and as you're walking the fields, sometimes you'll discover things like edible flowers, or I think that's really become much more mainstream in the last few years, but just a few years ago, farmers didn't realize that chefs might want flowering cilantro as garnish, and so it's great to just be there looking at the rows and having a conversation. Chefs and farmers tend to have very different hours. So I'll get a text from a chef at midnight, because they're still like going strong in their kitchens. They're just getting off the line and starting to think about orders, whereas farmers are up just a few hours later. So talk about best way to communicate. It's important to establish a system, billing system, define the terms. A lot of farmers really need to get paid immediately, so be prepared. If you're a small business, chances are you're not going through an accounting department and you can write a check on the spot, and they'll definitely appreciate that. A lot of farmers have delivery schedules, and it's really important to respect their order deadlines. A big reason why you're buying local in the first place is that it is harvested to order. So if they tell you that we harvest on Wednesdays and we'll deliver on Thursdays, we really need your order in Tuesday night. Try to respect that, and it'll all go much more smoothly. Be real specific. If you just say, I need carrots, you might get these beautiful, perfect little baby rainbow carrots, which are great if you're serving them whole on the plate, but if you're gonna make mirepoix, then it's probably an expense that you didn't intend to incur. And a lot of farmers are willing to, if you have a question about the condition or the size or the appearance of what you want to order, a lot of them are willing to just send you an email with a photo. Because it's not just that you want a carrot, you want certain color or size, and might determine how you plate that dish. Talk to farmers about length of growing season. I mean, here in Central Texas, you can get carrots a good bit of the year, or beets. But some produce is much more short-lived, so that might determine whether or not it's a verbal special on your menu or if it's going to be printed. And also be flexible. Things happen. Always have a plan B is my motto, so if you want to put chamomile on your menu, know that if there's only one farm you can find growing it, you may want to just have that as a verbal special. Talk about long-term forecasting. I think wish lists are fun, but only if you honor them. I've heard from a lot of farmers that, we've been asked to grow this, we grow it, and then the chef says, well, I'm not ready for it. Well, nature can't wait. So if you're gonna have that conversation, it's really important that you buy it. Don't go back on your word. And make a commitment and buy consistently. It's important to communicate. 1 week you might buy 50 pounds of cucumbers because you're gonna make pickles and that's it for a while. But if a farmer a farmer might think, well, I'm going to get that order every week. So then the following week, they might be holding it back, waiting for your order, and they might decline other orders, but let them know of your intentions. And if you're unhappy with the product, let them know why. I've found that people are in this because they're proud of their product, they want their food to be on the plate, and if there's ever a problem, let them know. And if something doesn't meet your standards, I've found that when I take a photo and send it, I tend to get great response. And honestly, I rarely have to reject an order from a local farm because chances are it was harvested to order and it just doesn't get any better than that. But if there is an issue, it's important to have that conversation. Yeah, and the worst thing you can do for the local food movement is buy something just because it's local. I think, that's a complicated issue, but I think we can improve the quality of the entire movement by having that conversation. Okay, unit of measure. I've had, I'll take a case of this. Well, what is a case? So the beauty of this is we don't have to go by all these really industry standards, but help a farmer out and just say, I'd like 12 bunches, or what do you consider a case? It's an important conversation. All right, your menus. When I go to a restaurant that says we're farm to table, I look for fermented, pickled, preserved foods. If there's a charcuterie program, I have a good sense that they're probably buying whole animals. And one way to cut costs is to ask a farmer about cosmetically damaged foods. If you're just going to process it into sauerkraut, it doesn't matter if it's got a little cosmetic damage. So that's a good way. I think a lot of people are concerned about food costs and local sourcing, but that's one good way. And while it's plentiful is when you want to buy it up and put it aside. So make jams and do as much preserving as you can. And think in terms of pastry program too, cocktail programs. Think about savory ingredients in desserts like persimmons and zucchini bread and all that good stuff. And if you write your menu in sort of broad terms like seasonal berries, well, you could be using strawberries now, but then when blackberries are in season, you don't have to change your menu. You just kind of tweak it accordingly. And winter greens, if you're making a pizza and the kale looked really good that one week and another week Swiss chard looked better or was more plentiful, then you don't have to do much. I've invited farmers and artisans to come and speak to the wait staff at the pre-shift meeting, and I think it really leaves a lasting memory. And the wait staff is much more likely to convey your message and your philosophy to the guests, because ultimately, if there's a breakdown in communication, then all your hard work has kind of been lost. And I think it's important to invite the farmers in to have your food. And so when you talk about that carrot wanting it to be baby so that it can fit on the plate and then they see it, I think that connection is made. And the farmers are great resources for what's edible. The plant creates a seed pod, and who knew that was edible? But the farmers are really great expertise, great resource. And again, educate your wait staff, because if someone has a question about, well, what's the difference between a grass-fed burger and commodity beef, if you give them that information, then they're much more likely to be able to make that sale and make your customers understand why the price is maybe a little bit higher than they're used to seeing. And you can find written ways to communicate your practices to your guests. So some restaurants will put that in the menu description. Some will put it at the very bottom of the menu, maybe a list of all the farms they work with regularly, maybe a chalkboard on the wall. I've heard of a bound book, almost like a wine list, where it's kind of like a bio of all the farms that are used regularly. This was taken at a restaurant in Portland, and I thought it was a great way to list all their partners, the foragers and purveyors. And again, it can be easily updated. And then I want to end with this. This is a dessert from a pastry chef named Janina O'Leary. If you look at these little strawberries, These aren't the big fat Driscoll clamshells that you get through your distributor. These were from a local farmer, and we were able to specify small is good, you know. In this case, we want to put them whole on the plate or just halved with the tops, and it shows how fresh they are. A few flower petals, and I think it really makes the dish. So that's it.